Okay. Hello. Oh, wait, no. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chandler.
And I'm Celeste.
And this is
True North Terror. Welcome back. Did you miss us?
Yeah, holy smokes.
Yeah, we had a little recording break,
It's been,
a few weeks.
the break was good because it's been crazy. So,
yeah, Chandler's in
needed it.
school. I had a litter of puppies. And then I was off week for a litter of those puppies. Anyways, I was off for a week. And then I had to catch up on work. And yeah, now we're here.
Yeah, now we're back. We are alive. We're good to go. I've got a two-parter that I haven't done before, so hopefully this goes well.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
We should talk about the show just a bit yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday we went to the Galaxy Psychic and Crystal Fair with our mom and Lexi, and it was so cool. We're not going to give away too much because we are doing a special episode about it, but me, mom, and Chandler all had readings with different people, and all three of them were great. I think they were like the perfect people for what we were wanting. And they all used tarot cards to do their readings.
Yours did too?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all three of ours used them differently.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. And we're not going to give away too much, but like the thing I can't stop thinking about today, I texted you but you didn't reply, was that...
Yeah, I meant to answer you, sorry.
So
I was moving that furniture, so
part of my reading was that they said I had someone on my maternal side, like an ancestor that used to do readings, and I was like, that's not really resonating with me. But then I saw my mom and auntie today, and I told them that, and they're like, oh yeah, our great-grandma, yes, their great-grandma used to do tea leaf reading. I was like, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
That's wild.
So cool. I had no idea that I had like anyone that did that behind me. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very validating because that was one of the things I walked away. I'm like, I have no idea what that could be. But then today I was like, mystery solved.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
It was cool.
It was really cool. Yeah. Like I've never had a reading done, and I've been wanting to get one for a while. And yeah, I got what I needed.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I got what I needed. I cried. It was good.
You cried?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we all got our readings at the same time in different booths.
Yeah, so we couldn't see each other.
Yeah.
I think that helped too. For
Yeah.
like them not having
each other to bounce off of. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
No, that was special. Noticed that it was what I needed before I even did.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like felt really tired after too.
I got home and I zonked.
Yeah, I
slept
felt
for like 3
so
hours.
tired. That probably means something. Yeah, like I felt exhausted when I got home. So I can't imagine how they feel after doing readings all day. Gosh. Yeah. Yeah, that will... I think Mother's Day is usually a Sunday. So we'll probably post that episode the week before Mother's Day. Yeah, it's gonna be a funsies one. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
I think that's it.
No business?
No, I don't think so.
There's a war going on.
A few of them. Wait, I might still have business. Did we talk on the podcast about the podcast I thought of after your episode sleep paralysis? Okay. We were at Mom and Dad's. I literally smacked Chandler and I was like, I remember what I was going to talk about like a month ago. So when we were talking about the sleep paralysis episode, it was reminding me a lot of, and it's not the same thing, but it's a really cool podcast. It's called Blink,
Okay.
and it is the story of Jake Hannendall, I think is his name, and he is the only survivor of a certain brain injury.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is the craziest podcast ever. It's called Blink, and it is like it's about his story, but if you haven't listened to it, you gotta listen to it. He tells his own story. It is insane. Like, it's insane. It's like listening to a thriller. It's crazy.
I still have to listen to it, but
So good. And he's also on socials. If you want to follow him, it's Miracle Man, but it's so good. It's so good. I think I'm going to re-listen to it because it's just crazy. Like, every episode you're like, this cannot get crazier, and then it's like, holy, how did this just get crazier? It's so good. So good. So 10 out of 10 recommend that. But yeah, that was all my business. Oh, man, I feel like I just had like a ton of weight off my shoulders.
there you
I've been
go.
holding that in for so long.
We'll have to try not to have such long breaks. This thing over. Try to get it to a point where I can read, which is a lot to ask.
Yeah, you're gonna
Please
have to
be
read a
patient.
lot.
Please be patient with me.
It is in 17 point font.
No, it's in 14 right
Oh, you
now.
put it back at 14.
Yeah, because I was reading it and I'm like, nah, I could probably read this. Yeah, okay. I didn't mark where to stop, but I'm pretty sure I know where, so we're good.
Well, we'll see.
Yep. If it just keeps rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling.
Well, you told me at what point you're stopping, so I'll tell you to shut up if you go
Yeah.
too far.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so today I'm covering a bit of an oldie. This is the disappearance of the Jack family. This will be part one because holy moly, did this get out of hand quick. It's like 100-something pages. So this takes place in the massive forests of northern British Columbia. When I say massive, I mean like beyond massive, where entire towns can disappear between mountain ranges. Highways stretch for hundreds of kilometers without any another vehicle in sight, and the tree line feels endless. To me, it sounds pretty
Sounds great.
awesome,
Yeah.
beautiful. Please let me live there. But at the same time, if something goes wrong, help might and probably will be hours away. And sometimes people just disappear. But tonight we're not covering just one person. We're talking about an entire family who disappeared together without a trace. 4 people, 2 parents, and 2 young children gone. No bodies were ever found, no confirmed sightings. And the only real lead investigators have ever had came almost 30 years later from someone who claimed to know exactly what happened.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Where am I going? Before we talk about the disappearance itself, we should talk about the family, because understanding who they were makes this case feel even a little heavier. The family were members of the Nodle Wooten First Nation, located near Fort Fraser, about an hour west of Prince George. The parents were Ronald Jack and Doreen Jack. Ronald was in his 20s and Doreen was just 26 years old. They had 2 young sons, Russell Jack, who was 9, and Ryan Jack, who was only 4. By all accounts, they were a tight-knit family. Life wasn't very easy, though. Northern BC communities in the late 1980s often relied heavily on logging work, seasonal labor, and word-of-mouth job opportunities. When logging contracts dried up, people had to take work wherever they could find it, which meant that when someone showed up offering a job, you listened. And that's exactly what happened in the summer of 1989. The job offer. Sometime around late July or early August of 1989, Ronald met a man who claimed he worked for a logging company. Witnesses later described the man as a white male driving a light-colored pickup truck. The man told Ronald he had a job available at a logging camp not far from town. The job involved clearing bush and preparing land for logging operations. Manual work, hard work, but good pay. The man told Ronald something that must have sounded like an incredible opportunity. He said the job would pay $1,000 up front. To put that into perspective, 1989, that's the equivalent of several thousands dollars today.
Yeah, that'd be hard to pass up when you don't have any steady work.
Yeah.
Children to feed.
For a young family
Mhm.
struggling to make ends meet,
Yeah.
that kind of money could change everything. Should I that kind of money right now that's rent for some people
Mhm.
today, right? Like, and even putting it into equivalent dollars right now,
Mhm.
like that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
That's huge money. It's too good to be true money.
Yeah.
Uh, but the job offer had another unusual detail. The man told Ronald he could bring his entire family with him.
I hate that. Like, I love that, but also it's like, it really sounds too good to be
And
true.
it feels a little weird, right? What? They're going to stay on a logging camp with me? Like
Yeah.
a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old on a logging camp?
Yeah. It's weird.
I've worked on camps, not logging camps, but like construction camps. That's no place for kids.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's very bizarre.
yeah. They're very not, very much not family environments. Very rough work sites, temporary camps in remote areas, usually filled with crews of workers, not families with young kids. But if Ronald questioned it, we don't know. All we know is that the opportunity that must have seemed real enough to trust, and tragically, the that trust would be the last decision the Jack family ever made. August 2nd, 1989. On the morning of August 2nd, 1989, witnesses saw the Jack family preparing to leave. They packed a small amount of belongings, clothing, basic supplies, items you'd bring if you expected to be gone for maybe a week or two. Then the pickup truck arrived. Witnesses say the driver spoke briefly with Ronald, and then the family got inside the truck. All four of them: Ronald, Doreen, Russell, and Ryan. The truck drove away, and that moment was the last confirmed sighting of the Jack family ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So no one saw them at all after that?
Nope.
Wow.
Not confirmed, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
No one in their community knew it at the time, but that truck driving down the road would become the final chapter anyone would witness of their lives. Yeah, like with the wilderness of northern BC, it's like if a family went missing after a trip, it's tragic, but like people watched them get in the truck and go.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was normal because
They were just going to
workers would
work.
get a ride to work,
Yeah.
and then they've gone on the camp for a week or two and then come back.
Yeah, so no one would even, like, think to report them
Yeah.
missing for a long time.
Yeah. Even stranger part is what happened next, is because when the Jack family didn't come back, people started asking questions, and the answers investigators found would raise even more, because the supposed logging job didn't exist.
Shocker.
Shocker, right? And when police started digging into who the mysterious man might have been, they realized something chilling. Almost no one could identify him.
Oh gosh.
Which
So he just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Which meant the last person seen with the Jack family was most likely the person who did it and had been planning it from the beginning.
And that no one knew.
Yep. When the pickup truck carrying the Jack family disappeared down the road on August 2nd, nobody thought much of it. People in small northern communities were used to seeing neighbors leave for temporary work. Logging camps were everywhere across British Columbia. Men would leave for weeks at a time. Sometimes family would move around depending on where the work was. So at first, nothing about the Jack family's departure seemed particularly alarming. Days passed, then a week, then two, And slowly, people began to realize something wasn't right. When the family didn't come back, the mysterious job Ronald had accepted was supposed to last about 10 days.
Okay.
That's what witnesses later told investigators. 10 days of brush clearing work at a logging camp somewhere outside the community. Excuse me. 10 days, and then the family would return. 10 days came and went, and the Jack family didn't come back. At first, relatives assumed the job had simply taken longer than expected. Well, that kind of thing happened all the time. Sometimes camps run longer,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes transportation was delayed, sometimes workers stayed on for extra pay. But as the weeks stretched into months, concern began to grow. In the late 1980s, communication in remote areas wasn't what it is today.
Yeah, they
No
didn't
cell
have satellite
phones,
phones. Yeah.
GPS. Sometimes the only way to contact someone at a logging camp was a landline radio system or a payphone,
Right.
which meant if someone vanished, it might take a long time before anyone realized they were truly gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Perfect place for someone that wants to do something terrible.
Yep. Eventually, family members reported the Jack family missing, but right away, investigators ran into a massive problem: the fact that the job was there was no details.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
it's 10 days.
yeah,
Okay.
the man who offered Ronald the work had never provided a company name, no paperwork, contract, address, just the promise of work and a ride in the truck, which meant police were essentially starting with nothing. They didn't know anything. All they had was a vague description of the man in a pickup truck who had driven away with an entire family. And like we said earlier, this description was not very specific. Witnesses remembered a light colored truck. Some thought it might have been white or beige, but in BC in the 1980s, pickup trucks were everywhere.
Yeah, because it's appropriate for where
Logging
you live.
towns,
Yeah.
they're filled with them.
Yeah.
Meant the vehicle description was almost useless. Investigators began checking logging operations throughout the region. They contacted companies across northern British Columbia, and they asked a simple question: did any of them have a brush clearing crew that hired Ronald Jack in August of 1989? The answer was always the same: no. No company had hired him. No crew had seen him, and no logging camp had any record of the Jack family ever arriving. And slowly, a terrifying possibility started to take shape. What if the job had never existed at all? Whoever picked up the Jack family had another plan. Clearly, the family walked straight into a trap. One of the most disturbing things about this case is just how completely the Jack family disappeared. No confirmed sightings after the day, no bank activity, no letters, no phone calls. Like, the guy who took them didn't even drain their accounts.
So you just took them to kill them and that's it.
Yep.
Or to do whatever he.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No trace of family anywhere in Canada, which is incredibly unusual because when an entire family disappears voluntarily, there are almost always signs. People leave trails, contact friends,
Take money out of their
take
bank
money
account.
to
Yeah.
move somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing, just radio silence. Over time, the investigators began to fear the worst: that the Jack family had been murdered shortly after leaving their community. Unfortunately, the early investigation into the disappearance struggled. Cases involving Indigenous victims historically received far less attention and fewer resources than other cases in Canada. And in 1989, that problem was even worse. The disappearance of the Jack family slowly faded from headlines. The case remained open, but there were few leads to pursue.
Where do you even start?
Yeah. Years passed, then decades. The boys who disappeared at age 9 and 4 would now be adults. Ronald and Doreen would be middle aged, but the investigators still had no answers. And for a long time, it seemed like they never would. Until something happened nearly 30 years later. Something that suddenly gave investigators their first real clue about what might have happened. Because in 2019, a woman walked into a police station with a story about something her former partner had told her years earlier, something he had claimed to have done, something that, if true, could have finally explained what happened to the Jack family. The story she told investigators was horrifying, and it involved a remote ranch and a confession that had been hidden for decades. For nearly 30 years, the disappearance of the Jack family remained one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in northern British Columbia. Investigators had almost nothing to work with: no bodies, no confirmed suspects, no physical evidence, just the story of the guy in the truck that drove away with the family. Over time, the case became what investigators call a cold case, still open, unsolved, no information, nothing new. Uh, then, when the woman comes into the police station, she tells the investigators this story from her former partner. And according to her story, the man had once admitted to killing a family. Just while you're together. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
A
just
couple
casual.
years back, I slaughtered a family.
I feel like it was probably
What?
more of a threat.
Yeah. Like, what? Not just anyone. He specifically claimed that he killed an indigenous family near Prince George in the late 1980s.
Oh, how
Yeah.
convenient. Yeah, like how many families
Yeah.
could be matched that description?
And when the woman later heard about the disappearance of the Jack family, she began to believe the story that he told her might be real. Uh, I mean, how do you hear that story and not do anything with it? But to each their own. He probably was hurting her. That's definitely something that would stay with you.
Yeah, I feel like that he probably said it as more of a threat, or if he was like under the influence of something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it wasn't like over a morning coffee.
No. Eventually, this woman decided she couldn't keep the information to herself any longer, so she did contact the police. And she gave them a very specific location, a rural property outside Prince George. The suspect, the woman described, had once lived on a rural ranch property in the area. Uh, Remote and isolated, surrounded by forest and farmland. According to the woman, the man had told her that after killing the family, he had buried their bodies somewhere on the property.
Mm.
Now, investigators suddenly had something that they never had before.
A lead.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
potential suspect. A possible burial site. Police began quietly reopening the case. They reviewed the old reports and they re examined witness statements from 1989. And they compared them with the information provided by the woman. Some of the details matched, enough that the investigators believed the tip was credible, which meant it was time to search the property. In 2019, investigators from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police began searching the rural property connected to the suspect. Obviously, this isn't a simple search. The ranch covered a large area of land.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
And probably a lot of trees and
yeah.
yeah.
This isn't just a small farm. This is a ranch.
Yeah, you're not like searching a backyard.
No, fields, outbuildings, wooded sections. And after nearly 30 years, the landscape had obviously changed.
Yeah, that too.
So investigators brought in specialized equipment: ground penetrating radar, forensic archaeologists, search teams trained to detect buried evidence. They were looking for disturbances in the soil, areas where the ground might have been dug up long ago, places where something might have been buried. For decades, relatives of the Jack family had lived with uncertainty. not knowing what happened, not knowing where their loved ones were. The possibilities that investigators might finally find answers was incredibly significant, but the search would take time. And there was no guarantee that they would actually find anything. This is just a tip.
Yeah. Yeah, random. I mean, I'm sure that they made sure it was somewhat credible
Mhm.
before they
Well,
continued,
that's what
but
they felt is that.
yeah, that it was actually credible. It wasn't just some,
Mhm.
like, rando coming in to get revenge on, like, her
Mhm.
ex-boyfriend or
No.
something.
According to the woman who came forward, the suspect had told her a chilling story. He claimed that years earlier he had picked up a family after offering them a job. He said he drove them to a remote location and then killed them. The woman told investigators that the suspect claimed the killings had been violent, and
Ugh.
afterwards he buried the bodies on the ranch property. If the story was true, it would perfectly match what the investigators had always suspected, that the offer was used to just lure the family away from their community, and that it was just a trap. As the search continued, investigators began digging in the areas where ground penetrating radar detected unusual patterns in the soil. Small excavation sites were carefully opened. Forensics teams worked slowly and methodically. Every layer of soil was examined, every object cataloged. If the Jack family had been buried there, even after 30 years, investigators might still be able to find evidence.
Mhm.
The search lasted weeks, months, and as the investigation progressed, police remained careful about what information they released to the public.
Yeah, fair.
hmm But they did confirm something important. They believed the tip was credible enough to justify a full investigation, which meant the possibility remained that answers were finally within reach. Even with the new lead, there were still many unanswered questions. Who exactly was the man accused of the crime? Why did he target the Jack family? If the bodies were buried on the property, why had it taken nearly 30 years for anyone to come forward?
Yeah, I'm sure she's not the only one he told.
hmm While investigators had a subject, proving what happened nearly 3 decades earlier was going to be incredibly difficult. And even with the ranch search underway, the mystery of what truly happened to the Jack family was far from solved. Uh, when investigators began focusing on the rural ranch property outside Prince George, the question quickly became clear: who exactly was the man connected to the land?
Yeah, like, did this lady give them, like, any information about him?
Just a former partner. And more importantly, was he capable of committing a crime as horrific as the disappearance of an entire family?
Yeah, like 2 young children?
Yeah, like, is this guy capable of this? The suspect investigators began looking into the fuck, sorry. The suspect investigators began looking into had lived in the region for years. He wasn't someone who would have stood out. In fact, by most accounts, he lived a relatively ordinary life on the surface. But according to the woman who came forward in 2019, he had once told her a deeply disturbing story. Yeah, why do I keep repeating myself? At the time, she wasn't sure whether to believe him or not. Sometimes people say shocking things in moments of anger or intoxication. Sometimes stories get exaggerated or twisted over time, but the details stuck with her. The
Yeah.
timeline he described matched the disappearance of the Jack family, and the location he mentioned near the region of Prince George. And most importantly, he described killing a family with two young boys.
Ugh.
I feel like with that much detail,
Yeah, like, that's 3 pretty significant.
that's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Not just like I can kill a whole family.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, he's saying, like, literally time, location, and a description of who he killed. It's like, yeah, that's literally 3 very significant pieces.
it's very hard to dismiss those details as coincidence.
Yes, definitely.
But that's why the investigators took the women's information extremely seriously. Even with potential confession, investigators faced a huge challenge. The alleged crime had happened more than 3 decades earlier. That's an enormous amount of time. Memories are fading, witnesses move away, physical evidence disappears. In rural areas, especially, properties can be altered dramatically over decades.
Mm-hmm.
Fields are plowed, buildings are constructed, trees grow where none existed before, which means finding forensic evidence from a crime in 1989 is going to prove incredibly difficult.
Well, especially like if it's a ranch and he has like animals grazing and stuff
Yeah,
there all the time.
that landscape is completely changed. Investigators weren't ready to give up, not after the case had remained unsolved for so long. Search teams continued examining the ranch property using specialized equipment. The radar, um, the technology works by sending radar waves into the ground and detecting disturbances below. If the soil has been dug up and refilled, even decades later, the radar can sometimes detect those changes. This is fucking cool.
That's how they found all the residential graveyards.
Mm-hmm. Investigators marked several locations where the readings suggested the ground might have been disturbed, and those spots were then carefully excavated, very methodically. Uh, every shovel of dirt examined, every fragment cataloged. Even a tiny piece of evidence could help confirm whether the Jack family had been buried there.
Yeah, they just have to find like one, like
A
a
speck of
bone.
bone,
Yeah, a
yeah.
bone or a piece of clothing or like literally anything.
Searches like that aren't just about finding evidence, they're also about bringing answers to the families who have
Yeah.
waited decades. Relatives of Ronald and Doreen had spent nearly 30 years not knowing what happened, not knowing where their loved ones were. That's just,
Torture.
yeah. Another reason this case drew renewed attention was the broader context surrounding disappearances of Indigenous people in Canada. Indigenous communities have long reported the cases involving their missing or murdered relatives often receive less attention and fewer investigative resources. In fact, the issue became so serious that the Canadian government eventually launched a national inquiry into national. What the fuck? It double copied itself, sorry. A national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. While the Jack family case involved both adults and children, it still reflected the vulnerability many Indigenous families faced in remote communities.
Mm-hmm.
Limited economic opportunities, isolation, and unfortunately sometimes exploitations by outsiders, which makes the circumstances of the Jack family disappearance especially tragic. It's the job offer that lured them away would have been designed specifically to take advantage of
Yeah,
them,
exactly.
right? Like,
Yeah. Like it had
who
to be
knows if
too
this
good to
guy
be true.
was like
Mm-hmm.
maybe stalking them and getting information about them,
Yeah.
or it's really not hard to tell if a young father of two needs more money.
Yeah. Or
Like,
he just literally picked
could have
anyone.
picked anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, just picked anyone. Like if he was just going through the area and he knew that was an area that people struggled to find steady work, he could have just went to whoever he wanted,
Yeah.
and they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
As investigators continued examining the ranch property, updates remained limited. Police were careful not to release too much information while the investigation was ongoing, but the renewed search brought national attention back to the disappearance. For many Canadians, it was the first time they had ever heard about the Jack family.
Yeah.
And for the relatives who had spent decades waiting for answers, the possibility of finally learning the truth was both hopeful and painful at the same time.
Well, news is very different now as compared to in 1989. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have Facebook. So
No,
like it's so much easier to reach a wider audience
Yeah.
now.
After so many years, the answers investigators might uncover were almost certainly going to confirm the worst. There's no way they were alive.
No,
Like,
no, they would have reached out
yeah.
to someone by now.
By this point, investigators believed one thing was very likely. The family never made it to a logging camp. There probably never was a logging camp. They probably never even left the region. Instead, police believe something terrible happened not long after they got into the pickup truck on August 2nd. I think that's where I said I was going to stop. About 40 minutes. Because now we're getting into, yeah,
What page are you on?
40 out of 90.
Okay.
Yeah. Because now we're, yeah. Well, that's where I'm going to leave it for now, on a bit of a cliffhanger on reconstructing the morning that people saw them leaving. I was going to highlight this. I'm going to just highlight it so I know. The fuck. What am I trying to say? Jesus. That's where I'm going to leave it for now.
You're like, I've read too much.
Yeah, my brain is melting. I need a break from reading, and I think that's a good enough spot to end it so that this episode doesn't feel too long.
When are you releasing the second part?
I can do it in the same week.
Yeah, okay.
This will come out on Monday. The next one will come out on Thursday.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm capable. I have a busy week, but I can make it work.
Perfect.
It'll happen.
Well, I am not hanging on a cliff because I get to listen to the next part right now.
Celeste gets it, but you guys don't. Sorry, guys. Thank you for listening. Hopefully we don't have a super long break again. If we do, we'll just load up a bunch of episodes so that we can take some time off and you guys still get some stuff. But stay spooky, True Northers.
Terror is closer than you think. Thank you for joining us for another episode of True North Terror. If you like our podcast, please help us grow by leaving a rating and review. If you have a story you want us to hear, or your own personal story you want to hear on the pod as a listener story, email us at truenorthterrorpod@gmail.com. Join us next week for another episode of True North Terror.